Hello once again to another video here at Frontline Model Hobbies, and in today's video I'm going to point at something with a pencil. I'm going to go nuts and super glue it anyway because I can, and as per usual I'm going to set fire to myself. Anyway, let's crack on. So the first thing to do as per is to glue this box together because I'm going to be doing the gun in this part of the video. So it's just a square box with an end plate going together. Not too complicated there, and then I'm putting these other parts of the gun mechanism together, as you can see there. So J35 is going to be put into there, which is just a slot fit. It is very nice, not a problem with that whatsoever. And then moving on to these side pieces, so J36 times 2, they're not handed, so just a squidge of glue on the ends, shouldn't be a problem with that whatsoever. And then that can go onto these side pieces, which is J6 and J5, which you're going to see in a minute. But I'm just making sure everything is all lined up because you need to make sure that the gun is going to sit nice and square because you don't want a wobbly gun. Now these are the two parts that I'm going to put on here. So the first one I believe is J5, which is this one. So I'm just gluing this into position. And then you don't want to be leaving this for too long on there. You don't want to leave it to dry. The only reason being is because the next part, J31, and the previous part we made, which we've got here, we need to slot that in between the two other parts, like you can see there. And again, just make sure it's all nice and square. And then, like I said, J31, this part here is going to go on the bottom. And I must admit, this was very difficult to get this one in and get it slotted into the holes, because it's just I wouldn't say a loose fit, but it's not perfectly square. So as you'll fully well know from me, I jump well ahead of the instructions and start putting the gun muzzle together, which is just two parts, and then I put this onto the barrel. I'm only doing this so that the other parts can be drying, so I just think of something else that I can do within the instructions. So it's just a straightforward fit onto the end of the barrel, and then I can do the breech, which again, it's not too overcomplicated. There is a seam line which you can't really get rid of. You'll have to super glue it or fill it or whatever. But anyway, it's there anyway. Now the breech going in, as you can see there, and it's just a slot fit, not a problem. I just left it as is. There's no issues with that whatsoever. And then I've got all the rest of the mechanisms to go on the side, which goes on there. And then I can put the barrel down onto this sliding part, which is going to go on to the other pieces. This is K11, which that's going to go on down there. And then the breech just connects onto the back like so. And just a dab of glue and you should be fine. So after doing the cannon and leaving that to dry, I'm going to do this rail system on the bottom of the cannon, as you can see there. So I'm just gluing it on K40, as you can see. I'm not going to glue times 2 K23s. I'm going to leave them off. But next up, I'm going to glue K8 and K2 respectively. There is a seam line going down the middle, so if you so wish you can fill it with a bit of plastic card at the back of the breech. Now I've glued all the rest of the pieces on there. It's all self-explanatory and goes together really nice, not a problem with that whatsoever. And then moving on, I've got these side plates that are sort of protection plates and this, that and the other to go down, so that's up next. These next parts were a bit more fiddly compared to the rest of the other parts that I've met so far, only because the attachment points were a bit finer. So what I did instead was left each individual part a bit longer to dry before I went to go and attach the next part. That way I wouldn't actually knock anything off, because I'm quite good at that, to be honest with you. And also I actually followed the instructions, so each individual part, as you can see here, was actually following the instructions in order as it goes along. And as you can see, it builds up to quite an impressive model in its own right. Next part is to put these two parts together, and it's just a push fit. You don't need to glue them, because whatever you do, do not glue them. And then you put your hole in your shaft, and then you've got another piece that locks it in like so. And as I mentioned, do not glue it because it's supposed to move like so. And same with the other side, because, yeah, I did the other side as well. And I don't think that sight is supposed to move. Anyway, gloss over that. Next up is, like I said earlier, I didn't glue K23 times 2 because I was going to put them in afterwards. And what I later found out was one was longer than the other side. So what I did was I just made sure it was trimmed to round about the same length, and as you can see there, it was okay, and they go into those two holes respectively like so. And then what I did was I just put some glue on the end of them and then just pushed down and then pushed the gun barrel up like so. Now I've got all the sub-assemblies together, it's now to put it together. So I'm going to go for a drink and I will see you in a bit. I'm scarpering. Bye. Oh, goody gumdrops. I've got more photo etch to do. Now, you need to put these two plates together, but the photo etch sits in between. So, again, I'm going to leave you with me messing and playing around with a bit of photo etch and gluing it in. So, I'll see you in a tad. Bye. Yeah, you see, that weren't too bad, was it? Now, I've got everything all in there. Now I need to put it over the top of the cannon. Now, the best way to do it is to do it when it's absolutely finished painting, because you can actually bend the photo etched. But either way, I'd go to test fit and it kind of goes over there, but to be honest with you, I'd do it at the end. Now, next thing to do is to put the MG42 mount on there, and I've already done that. And the next thing to do is to put the MG42 on. Now, all it comprises is about 2 parts, maybe 3 at tops from my memory. But either way, that's all glued in there, which looks very nice. Now, the next thing to do is the engine. Now, we need to crack on with that. So, I'm putting all the crankcases in there and everything else, and it all fits very nicely. There's no gaps, there's no issues, there's no seam lines. There might be a seam line there, but you don't see it when it's all in there. So it looks very nice. So you've got all the end plates to go on, and you've got all the belts and everything which goes over the top of this part. Now just make sure that this all fits in there. It can only fit in one way, shouldn't be an issue whatsoever. Now, I was going to do a voiceover on all these parts for the engine, but to be honest with you, I don't know the names for everything. I don't want to make myself look even more stupid than what I already am. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave you with me putting this engine together. Again, it's not too difficult. You follow the instructions and it's not an issue whatsoever. Everything goes together with the exception of a bit later, and I'll come back to that when I start doing a voiceover again. So see you in a bit. Aha, and welcome back. And this is the part that's causing me an issue, A36. Now, I'm just using a Meng sanding stick. You can use whatever you wish, just to sand down the end, because it doesn't fit really that very well. Now, I'm putting the bell housing on there, and a few other bits and bobs onto the engine. So again, I'm going to leave you with me doing all the exhaust system and everything for this engine. So again, I'm going to scarper. See you in a bit. Well, I must admit, that is a model in its own right, that engine. And yes, it might not be the most accurate, or it might be, I don't know. But either way, it's an engine. And yes, it's missing the ignition wires and this, that and the other, but oh well, you can put that in a later date. Now, the next thing to do is these fuel tanks. Are they? I don't know. Now, if they are fuel tanks, they're one piece, they fit in very nicely, quick dab of glue, and you're good to go. Next thing to do is to test fit the engine through this gap here that I'm pointing to, and that corresponds to where the dry shaft will come out to the bell housing, just off there, like that. Well done for pointing that. Well done, Rob. Well done. You knob. Anyway, so I grab the engine and then slot the shaft into the hole, and then just push down like so. Not a problem with that, and it does actually fit very, very nicely. Oh yeah, and look, another piece of photo etch to put on, and a missing 3D printed part, which I haven't got in the kit, and I don't know why I ain't got it, but either way, I can't put it on if I haven't got it. So onto the photo etched, and you need to take these two parts off there, and I've already bent the photo etch. It's just one bend, I'm not going to show that. And again, I'm using that same tip as I used earlier with the white tack. Just place it into situ, and you've got a little marker in there so you can position it perfectly, which is good. Oh yeah, as I said earlier, I'm going to point with a pencil. See, I didn't lie to you. And also, avert your eyes. Don't look. Don't look. I've painted it. That's for part 3. Anyway, so moving on to the upper hole, so I've put some super glue on there just to tack it into place. Just gives me a bit more wiggle room around the places, around the back and around the side and this, that and the other. So pretty much what I've decided to do is down the side is super glue it all, because when the side pods go on, whatever you want to call them, you'd see a seam on the front and the back, so I decided to do the lot. So anyway, as per usual, I'm going to scarper. See you in a bit. And while you've not been looking, I have sanded this one all down. Now, some of you are maybe asking why I use super glue. Well, there's two main reasons. One is because it goes off quite quickly. I must admit, I left this one 2 hours because I didn't want to leave any gaps. But either way, and the second reason is I didn't want to use a hot glue because it might melt the interior paintwork and all this, that and the other. So moving on, as you can see, attacker paint on neat plastic. Yeah, that's what happens. So always prime with orange attackers. And I'm not going to show you the rest of the interior, so I'm going to leave it there. Haha. And crack on with these side pods. As you can see, no glue on there whatsoever. I'm just push fit on there, and it shows you how well that has fitted on. And the same with the other side. I have not put any glue in there. I'm going to use some hot glue later on. Use some Tamiya extra thin or something like that from the bottom side. So they are fitted very nicely. But the only downside is this offside rear. So I just need to tack that with some super glue, so it shouldn't be a problem. We are on the home stretch now for the rest of the parts of the build. So we just got a few bits and bobs to do, like this box here. Now, quick position. Yeah, there's no line to position it up to, so it's just a Mark 1 eyeball job and then glue it into position. It's a shame that you can't have this box open, but hey-ho, I'll left it closed. Next thing is to put C21 in, and as you saw, it's not handed. They're both the same side. And yeah, I didn't have to drill any holes, reposition it or anything. It all lines up perfectly. Next thing to do is to put the exhaust on, and as I mentioned ages ago, I must admit, F59 and F58, which I'm bending one of them anyway, into position. I wouldn't have glued it in ages ago. I would have glued it in now so that you can manipulate it and get it in line with that hole onto the side of the chassis. And then you've got that other bit, which is C19 times 2, which just goes over the top of the exhaust like so. And as you can see there, it does look quite good. Not a problem with that whatsoever. So last job on our list is to melt all these components down, as you saw there, using a tea light. I think it's a bit of a gimmick, to be honest with you, but either way, I did say I'm going to set fire to myself, but I lied. Now, yeah, these are the parts that I need to melt down, as you can see. So it's those little peg parts at the tops, as you can see, going all the way through. Now I'm using, I believe, a trumpeter stirring tool because it's flat and small and I can heat it up and then just push them down, as you can see there, going all the way through. Yeah, in hindsight, what I did later on is position the wheels into where I wanted it to do and just put some glue on there. So anyway, I just want to say a thank you so much for watching this video and the other one prior to this one, and I'll see you again on the next one. So cheerio, see you in a bit.